Hello, and today we're going to be going over Pythagorean Theorem in 3D, okay? So we're just taking the same stuff we know about Pythagorean Theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and we're just going to apply it to a little bit more complicated situation here. Alright, so right here, it wants us to find the length of x, okay? So, as you can see here, we have a 3D prism, and so we have a little triangle down here, a right triangle there, and then we have another right triangle here. Alright, so we have to kind of try and visualize them as individuals, even though they are connected inside this prism. Alright, so right here it says, what is the length of x? Alright, so let's look here. On x here, it is the hypotenuse of this triangle ADC on the bottom here. Alright, so 3 and 4 would be our two legs, and x would be our hypotenuse. So, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to plug in 3 for a, 4 for b, and then we're trying to solve for x, which is c in this situation. So if I wanted to, I can write that as x squared. Alright? Alright, so let's go. We got 9 plus 16 equals x squared. 25 equals x squared, because we just combined those terms. And now in order to cancel out that squared, we have to take the square root. And so we got to do it to the other side as well. Well, this works nicely. So we have 5 equals x. Alright. Now what we need to do in order to find that green triangle, we're going to plug in 5 for x there, and now we have to look at just that green triangle here. Alright, so 5 would be a leg, and 12 would be my other leg, and y would be my hypotenuse. Alright, so here we go. We're going to have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and I'm going to plug in 5 for a, and 12 for b, and then c squared I can just write as y squared. Alright? Okay, so once again we're just trying to visualize that triangle all by itself. So if you have some different colored pens or markers, I would do that. Or what you can even do is just rewrite the triangle on the side and just visualize it as an individual, okay? Here we go. Let's simplify that. 25 plus 144 equals y squared. That equals 169. And take that square root as our last step. And looky there, we got another perfect square. So 13 equals y. So there we go. Alrighty there. So that is just an image that is given to us. And so now down here we have a lot of words, okay? So Renee plays softball. I don't know why there's a space there. For her college team. She went home to visit her parents for the weekend and took her favorite bat to practice at the batting cages. Alright, so after returning to college, she realized that she left her bat at her parents' house. So they have to ship her bat in a box, okay? So that box is 28 by 18 inches. And we need to see if her 24-inch bat will lie across in this diagonal direction. And it's also 8 inches high. So they already have every piece of information that we do know already marked off. So what we need to find is this diagonal length right there. Alright, so we got a picture of this box with the bat just laying diagonally in it, okay? So in order to find that first, we need to find that diagonal on the base, okay? So we can call that C for now. So, because in order to find our hypotenuse for our answer, we need to figure out what this other side length is, okay? So here we go. Let's go ahead and find that by using 18, oh goodness. Okay. 18 and then 28, and we're going to find that diagonal on the base there, okay? So if we want to rewrite this, this can be our little triangle that we're visualizing. If you want to just rewrite it as its own triangle, you can do that, okay? So let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to plug in 18 for a, and then 28 for b, and I'm solving for c. Okay, so we get 324 plus 784 equals c squared. Now what we can do here is take the square root of 1108 and then the square root of c, and we would get c equals approximately 33.3 inches. Okay, so that is what we're going to plug in there. Okay, so now we need to find this missing C angle there, okay? Or line, not angle. So we need to now find that. So we know our one leg is 33.3, and the other leg is 8, and now we need to find that missing hypotenuse, okay? So here we go. We're going to do our work over here. So I'm going to have 8 squared plus 33.3 squared equals c squared. Alright, so here we go. We end up with 64 and then 1108. And that makes sense to have 1108 because if we just took the square root of it and got this 33.3, if we square it, we should end up with whatever we started with. So there we go. And then we add those together and get 174, or 2, my bad, equals c squared. Now we need to take the square root. And then c, so that ultimate diagonal that we're trying to figure out, is 34.2 inches. Alright, so we aren't done because they asked us a question of, can her 34-inch bat fit in that diagonal? So if this diagonal distance is 34.2 inches and her bat's only 34 inches, yes, the bat will fit. Barely though, just by like a few inches it'll fit, okay? But since that bat is less than that distance, it will fit in that box. Alright. Okay, now over here we have distance between points on a coordinate plane. Alright, so you might be like, oh my gosh, we're doing something new. We aren't really, because all we're doing is just plotting these 2 points and creating a right triangle from them. And then we'll just use a squared plus b squared equals c squared to solve for that missing length. Alright, so right here we have 1, 3, my x and y's. So at 1 and then 3 is where my first point's going to be. And then at 4, 7 is where my second point's going to be. Now let's go ahead and connect those 2 lines. And now I need to make a right triangle out of that. So I'm going to drop this line down and connect them right there to create a right triangle. Alright, so now all we have to do is find those leg distances so then we can find our hypotenuse. And all we have to do is count our little squares. So right here that's 3 squares by 4 squares. And all we have to do is plug that in. So we're going to do 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared, because those are my legs and my hypotenuse. So then I get 9 plus 16 equals c squared. And now we just got to take the square root, and c equals 5. So that length right there is 5. Alright, so nothing too different here. We just have to plot some points, okay? Alright, my x and y. Now I gotta go -3, +3, and then I gotta go +2, -9. Alright, so now we just need to make that diagonal there, and in this situation, it doesn't matter how you draw your triangle, because you could make the legs go that way, or what you could do is have the legs drop down this way. You will get the same answer either way, so don't worry about, oh no, am I drawing my triangle the correct direction? Okay, so our leg here, this distance is 12, and this distance is 5. So what am I going to do? Plug that in, and I get a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I get 5 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. Then we have 25 plus 1, 44. And ultimately, we got 169 equals c squared. Alright, so you might be like, oh, well, this happened to work out nicely on my last page. And so, what this triangle is it's a Pythagorean triple. And so, if you ever have two legs that are 12 and 5, your hypotenuse will then be 13. And same with over here. If our two legs are 3 and 4, our hypotenuse will automatically be 5, okay? So there are some patterns along with the Pythagorean theorem. Alright, here we go. We got x and y. I want you to pause this and try and do it on your own first, and then watch me to see if you get the same thing I do. So -2, -5, and then 3, -8. So I'm going to draw that diagonal, and then I'm just going to drop it down and make that right triangle. And my distances are 3 and 5. Alright, so a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we get 3 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. Simplify those, and we get 9 plus 25 equals c squared. And then ultimately we have 34 equals c squared. Now we need to take the square root of that, and 34 is not a perfect square. So you want to get your calculator out, because at the top here it said round to the nearest tenths place, so we don't leave this in radical form. So we're going to take the square root of 34. If it ends up like that, just hit this button. And there we go. So we have to round to the nearest tenth, so it's going to be 5.8. Alright. Keep on going. So we have 3, -2, and then 5. So 3, -2, and then we have 5, 0. Alright. Alright, and then there's our next dot. So this is a tiny little square here, okay? So 2 by 2, I'm going to do that. So 2 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. Alright, so if I do that, 4 plus 4 equals c squared, and then 8 equals c squared, so I got to take that square root. And if we do that, we got square root of 2 is 1.4. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Oops. I need to take, because see, okay, learning, this is a place to learn. So, right here I got 1.4 as my answer. If I were to plug 1.4 in there, I need to pause and be like, my hypotenuse is supposed to be my longest length. 1.4 is less than 2. So, obviously I made a mistake, and I see where I made my mistake. I did the square root of 2 instead of the square root of 8. Mistakes happen, you just got to catch them. Okay? So, our hypotenuse is 2.8. That makes a lot more sense. Alright, there we go. Okay, I got a few more examples here. So at -3, -3, and at +3, +3. Alright, I'm going to draw my diagonal. There we go. That's a 6 by 6. So here we go. We got 6 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. 36 plus 36 equals c squared. And then I got that 72 equals c squared. I'm going to square root both of those as my last step, and we get 8.5 for c. Alright. And last one here. Alright, so we got 0, 2. And then we got -5, +9. That's there. I'm going to drop that diagonal, and then once again, doesn't matter how you draw your legs. There we go. And we got to count those spots, and we got 5 by 7. Alright, and we're solving for c once again. So we got 7 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. We got 49 plus 25 equals c squared. And lastly, that adds up to be 24. And now we just got a square root, so then we can cancel out that c squared. And we end up with 8.6 for c. Alright, there we go. That is all for today. The homework that you have is this Pythagorean Theorem in 3D and the back page. And make sure you are working on your review.